Let's see if y'all can hear me. I hope so, because we're live. Ho, 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 ho. Whew. This is a big studio. Let's see if y'all can hear me. Oh, that's on my phone. I hope so, because we're live. Whew. Yep. Oh, okay, cool. Hey there, everyone. I guess I'm taking over the studio today. Thanks, Scott, for allowing me to do that. I don't know how I managed to convince you, but yay. So, hey guys, out there in the internet universe. If you don't know me, my name's Jake. I'm a member of the ZealZaddy group. I'm one of the zealots. I also play irregular Ferris, or Boots, in Scott's Crosscodes game. And I'm here today to play some board games with people. Where is here? Well, this studio that we're in. Oh, this is the Yellow Games studio with the nice yellow wall. I just want to say thank you first and foremost to the Adventure Game Store here in Davie, Florida. This game store is awesome. I've been coming to the game store since before it was the Adventure Game Store, when it was Dragon's Lair Games over on State Road 7. Brian and Eric and Keith and these guys sold me my first copy of Player's Handbook back in 3rd edition, and I was hooked. And I've been playing tabletop games ever since. I've been playing board games since I don't even know how old. Gaming is this hobby that brings us all together, and I think it's this really awesome thing. And now you, the viewers at home, can come here and join us in the Adventure Games Cafe, which is just next door to the Adventure Game Store. There's going to be food, there's going to be drinks, there's going to be tables, there's a whole games library. You can come out here, have a membership, come with your friends, and just hang out and play board games. It's a really cool thing to do. Both as a pastime and as a way to build community. It's a lot of fun. So that's that. So that's my thank yous to everyone. I also like to thank Scott and Cliff, the producers and creators of ZealZaddy, for giving me this opportunity to hang out with you guys and play some board games. Scott and Cliff are awesome. I met them here at the game store, and ever since, it's been a wild ride. So check out the other shows, the recurring shows on the ZealZaddy network. So Crosscodes and Zealots of Zool. You can see my beautiful face in both games. And today, we're going to be playing Pandemic. I'm waiting on some players to show up. I'm going to just be picking people out of the crowd in the audience over there. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an overview of Pandemic. So Pandemic is probably one of the most well-known cooperative board games on the market right now. It's been around. It's been out for a while. There's an anniversary edition that's out. There's a legacy edition that's out. You should pick it up. It's a lot of fun. But the general purpose of the game, or I guess the goal of the game, is for you as a cooperative team of players to stop an outbreak of plague that's spreading across the world. And there's 4 different colors of plague. There's yellow, red, blue, and black. And the goal is to cure all of the diseases. The way that the game is played, you first start by, and I've already set up the board, but the way that the board gets set up, you have your main playing board, then you have 2 decks. You have your infection deck, and you have your player deck. So your infection deck has cards that correlate to the cities on the board. One of the things that I have yet to do is, in Atlanta, you start with a research center. Why do you start with a research center in Atlanta? It's because the CDC is in Atlanta, and I guess they wanted this game to be super realistic. And We're in the United States, so they put it in Atlanta. I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't work for Zman. So all of the players start in Atlanta, and then what happens is you flip over 3 cards, and so I would flip over Washington, Bangkok, and Jakarta, and I would start out the beginning of the game by infecting these cities with 3 color tokens. So there's 4 different colors. So Washington will get 3 blue. And Jakarta and Bangkok will both get 3 red. If I can ever get these tokens out of this thing. I can't read upside down, so you guys are going to watch me fumble about for a bit and laugh at me, but this is a lot of fun. There's Jakarta. Then you do the same thing, but the subsequent time, or the time you do it next, so I'll flip 3, and then I put 2 tokens, and then I'll do it again, and I'll put 1 token. That's how you set up the initial infection set layout of the board. The other thing that you do is you have your player deck. So depending upon how many people you're playing with, everyone starts with a certain number of cards in their hand. I set up the table to be for 4 players. So everyone starts with 2 cards. So you'll deal 2 cards out of this deck to everyone. And then you'll take the remaining cards and shuffle them up and distribute it into a number of decks depending upon how difficult you want your gameplay to be. So I chose normal gameplay. For normal gameplay, you'll have 5 separate decks that you'll split it out into. And then into each one of those decks, you will place a card that looks like that, which is an epidemic card. We'll talk a little bit more about epidemics, but they're bad. You don't want epidemics. Okay, once you've taken and split it out into 5 separate piles, and you've added an epidemic card and an event card, which looks like this, into each one of the decks, then you'll shuffle them individually and stack them so that you get your final player deck. The reason why you split it out and then put the epidemics in that way is it makes it so that you don't draw 2 epidemics back to back. They want to try and space them out in the deck as evenly as possible. Okay, so now we've set up our board pieces. We place our outbreak markers here. When you cure a disease, you move it up. When you eradicate the disease, you flip it over so it has this nice, I don't know if you can see this symbol, but get real close to the camera. I'm going to throw off the white balance. There's like a little white line through it that shows that you've eradicated it. In some of the other editions of the game, like the Legacy Edition and the Special Edition, some of the tokens look a little bit different. They might be fancier. Game works exactly the same. Okay, so everyone has their cards. I dealt 2 cards to everyone. Now you randomly assign roles. So there's different role cards that look like, so the back of the card looks like this, it says role, and then the front of the card is a job. So there's different jobs, there's medic, researcher, and each one of the jobs has a different ability, which might not make sense to you right now, but I'll go over how actions work, and then hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense. So dispatcher, for example, can move another player's pawn as if it were their own, and as an action, they can move any pawn to a city with another pawn. That's pretty awesome, but we don't have a dispatcher in this game. So I'm gonna put this one away. Okay, I think I went over, you give each player a number of cards based on how many players you have. So if you're starting with 2 players, each player will get 4 cards from the player deck. If you're starting with 3 players, each player will get 3 cards from the player deck. And if you're starting with 4 players, each player will get 2 cards from the player deck. I know I said that kind of fast. That's why there's instructions that come with the game. Okay. So I've started to do my infection for my cities, so I'm going to finish doing that. So I have Tehran, Cairo. Oh, that's not good. I got 3 blacks. Okay. Tehran, Cairo, and Karachi are all going to get 2, which is not good. Okay. Tehran. Oh, and they're next to each other. Karachi and Cairo. Okay, so that's that. And then Algiers, Seoul, and Bogota will all get 1. So let's go. Bogota, Colombia. And then Algiers will get 1. Wow, we are going to need help in the Middle East and parts of North Africa. Seoul. South Korea, that K-pop capital of the world. I know I talk a lot. Sorry, not sorry. It makes the channel a little bit more exciting. Where are you at? Seoul, there you are. Okie doke. Okay, so we've distributed our tokens. We have set up our infection. We infected our cities. We've got all of our markers out on the board. Everyone has their cards. So let me go over how actual play works, because now we've set up the board ostensibly to be able to play the game. Okay. Every time a player takes their turn, they get 3 parts to their turn. Play is divided up into 3 parts. The first part is do 4 actions. So there's different actions that you can take, and conveniently enough, there's little action cards. Give me 1 second. And I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to try to put it here. These come in your board. These are very useful. You should laminate these so that everyone can have one. Okay, so your actions are drive. So drive, I'm going to take one of these little player tokens. Move to a city connected by a white line. So in between these cities, you can see that there's lines, especially the ones that are going over the ocean. They're kind of easy to see. As a single action, you can move your pawn to a city that is connected by a line. Pretty self-explanatory. You can book a direct flight. So if I have in my hand as a player, in my player hand, if I have a card for a particular city, I can discard that card to fly directly to that city. So let's say I'm in Madrid and I want to go to Johannesburg in South Africa. If I have the Johannesburg card in my hand, I can discard that into the player discard pile and move directly to Johannesburg. Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, next, you can charter a flight as an action. I can discard the city card that matches the city I'm in to move to any other city. So again, let's say I'm in Madrid and I want to go to Sao Paulo in Brazil. And I have the Madrid card in my hand. I can discard the Madrid card to go to Sao Paulo. Pretty easy. I can go anywhere. If I discard Madrid, I can go to any space on the board as long as I'm in Madrid when I discard it. The last one that you can do is a specialty action that's called shuttle flight. So if I have built a research station in Milan and I want to go from Milan to Atlanta, I can shuttle a flight between any two locations on the board that have research stations. So I could just go like that. Okay. There are 4 additional actions. So 1, I'm sure that the next relevant question, based on what I just said, is how do I build a research station? Funny you should ask. The next action that you can take is build a research station. You can discard the card for the city you're in to place a research station there. So, my token is in Riyadh, and I have the Riyadh card. I can discard it to build a research station in Riyadh. Pretty simple. You might start to catch on to the fact that there's a limited number of cards for any given cities in the game, and if I'm discarding them to travel to them or to travel from them, then I can't build research stations there, and there's a bunch of other things that I won't be able to do that I need those cards for. This game is very much a game of resource management. Get good at resource management because that's this whole game. Okay. Next action that you can take is treat disease. So if I have, for example, here in Algiers, there is a cube. This represents 1 disease. You can remove 1 disease cube from the city you're in if the color is cured, meaning if I've met the conditions to cure that disease, and I've moved my little cure token over the disease to indicate that it's cured, I can remove all of the cubes in a given city when I go to remove disease or treat disease in that city. It might be a little confusing. Let me give you an example. If I have my token here, and I use 1 action to move to Algiers, I can use another action to remove 1 disease cube. I would remove it and put it back into the pile with all the other disease cubes of the same color. If I had already cured this disease, I could use another action to move to Cairo and then treat disease again, which would be my 4th action, and I could remove both of the cubes. If I had not yet cured the disease, and I wanted to do the same thing, I could move from Algiers to Cairo as an action, and then my treat disease action would only remove 1 cube. So there'd still be 1 disease cube remaining in Cairo. Pretty simple. There's 2 more options, or for actions. 1 is share knowledge. So I can give the card that matches the city I'm in to another player, or take that card from another player. The other player must also be in the same city. This is the one that gets a little confusing. If, let's say, another player has the London card, and I need the London card, I have to meet them in London for them to give me the London card. And then they can trade a card with me. They can just give me that card, or I can ask them for it and take it from them. They don't need to swap a card with me. It's the exchange of a card that has to happen in the city that matches that card. Hopefully not super confusing. When we get to playing, I'm going to grab some people and try and get them in here, and we'll play a little bit of Pandemic. Hopefully you'll get to see how that mechanic works. The last one, which is kind of the most important action in the game because it's how you win, is how do you discover the cure for a disease. At any research station, you can discard 5 cards of the same disease color to cure that disease. For example, let's say this player has the black disease card. And it doesn't matter that it says Mumbai, it's a black disease card. Let's say they end up in Atlanta, and they have 4 more of these black colored disease cards. They can discard all 5 of them to cure that disease. And when they cure the disease, they move the token up, and it says that they've cured the disease. And then if they go treat disease, when they remove the cube, they remove all the cubes. So that's how you treat that disease. And that's all your actions. That's pretty much the overwhelming majority of how you play Pandemic. What? You want to know how you lose Pandemic? Oh, that's easy. There's 3 ways to lose Pandemic. 1, run out of any of the colors of the cubes. If you run out of any of these colors because you have to go and spread disease, or something happens and there's an epidemic, you ran out of the color that you needed, you lose. If the outbreak tracker gets all the way to the bottom here, you lose. The last way to lose, and the thing that really makes this game a game of resource management and one where you're playing against the clock, is if the player deck runs out of cards, you also lose. So those are the 3 ways to lose Pandemic. I think that I'm forgetting something. I'm forgetting epidemic cards. So whenever you draw from the player pile an epidemic card, you automatically do 3 things. The first thing is you increase. So you move the infection rate marker here over to the next number. And it starts at 2, and it goes 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. So you would move it up. Then you infect. You take the bottom card from the infection deck, and you play it. That city gets 3 of whatever that correlating or corresponding color disease is. So you get 3 of that token, and you put it on that city. Then you take that card, you add it to the discard pile, shuffle the discard pile, and put it back on top of the infection deck. Then draw the number of cards associated with your infection rate. So the first time you get an epidemic, you'll increase, you'll infect, and then you'll intensify. And you will draw 2 cards, the number corresponding to your infection rate. You'll draw 2 cards, and you'll then infect those 2 cards, or infect those 2 cities. Meaning you'll add another token to those 2 cities. So that's kind of scary for a number of reasons. As play progresses, after you've done your 4 actions, the next part of your turn is that you'll draw 2 player cards. That's how you can draw epidemics. If you get an epidemic from your player deck, it happens. The last part of your turn is that you infect cities. You infect cities by drawing you draw as many cards here, again, as the infection rate. So when you infect, you'll add a token to a city here. The problem is that any given city on the board can only have 3 tokens maximum on it. If you draw a city that already has 3 tokens on it, you have an outbreak. Outbreaks are bad. Outbreaks happen, and they cause some serious problems. So I bet you were wondering what this outbreak tracker is. Every time there's an outbreak, you move it down the outbreak tracker. Okay, I've already told you that that's one way to lose the game, but what else happens? Every time you have an outbreak, you then spread one of those disease tokens to each city adjacent or connected by a line to that city. So let's say I had an outbreak in Bangkok. I would then put one red token on every city connected to Bangkok. What's that, you say? Jakarta also has 3 tokens on it? That's not good, because now Jakarta has an outbreak as well. So the problem with outbreaks is that they can create chain reactions that can spread the disease across the board. Every time I have an outbreak of an additional city, I would move this tracker again. Are there individual goals, or is it a cooperative? It's a cooperative game. So the goal of this game is for everyone to win together. So you are actually, in this game, encouraged to try to cooperate with the other players. Let each other know what cards you have. Let each other know what cards you need. This is a game of resource management where the players are playing against a proverbial time clock to stop an epidemic from wiping out all life and civilization on Earth. No pressure. It's a lot of fun. Pandemic is a great game. It's been around for a long time, and it's a lot of fun to play. So, I guess the only thing left to do is actually play. I'm going to go try and see if I can find some people to play with me, and then we'll be back. Stay tuned.